Okay, welcome back to Betrayal in Blue, Cops Who Crossed the Line, episode 4. Have a few stories we want to talk about today. But first, before we get into those stories, I want to thank last week's guest, Joe Hennessy. He's a former Boston cop, current defense attorney, for the interview last week. We got a lot of positive feedback on that, and everybody seemed to enjoy his story about how he took a bribery arrest and money ended up disappearing by unknown persons. So if you haven't seen that episode, go back and watch it. It's episode 3. First thing up is a few weeks back, there was a off-duty NYPD cop who was just getting off work around 2 in the morning. He's on his way home, and he was stopped at an intersection, and there was an attempted carjacking on him. He got out of his car, and the suspect fired his gun at the off-duty cop, and the cop returned fire, striking the subject in the chest. I believe the subject is still alive. He's in critical condition. What was recovered at the scene was 2 guns on the suspect and a knife after he was shot. And this was all captured on video. So let's go to the video. All right, that's the reason why when I was off work, going home or going to the precinct, did not stop at intersections. When I was in my car, my gun was always in my lap, my off-duty gun. I had a little 2-inch Smith & Wesson, and another point I had a 9mm. Always right there in my lap or on the side seats right next to me. Come to an intersection, red light or anything like that, I just pump the brakes, make sure there was no cross traffic, and go through the intersections, go through the lights. Never stopped. That's also briefly mentioned in the documentary. Trimboli talks about that when my ex-partner would leave the precinct, he would run every red light on the way home. That's mainly the reason why. It's not because we thought people were following us. Even more so when I was riding a motorcycle to work, I barely pumped the brakes on the bike and I was gone. You just need someone waiting at the intersection to knock you off the bike, and who knows what would happen. So there was no stopping at intersections, either to or from work. It leads me to my first story. I was rookie in a precinct in the 7-5, probably about, 4 months in, and somebody blows an intersection in front of my partner and myself, and we go to pull them over. And it's this very charismatic, gregarious guy behind the seat, and he's pulls out a police surgeon badge. It's him, and his line is, "Officers, I don't care how many tickets you write me, I am not stopping at any lights in this precinct." And this guy, like I said, he was a police sergeant, and he worked at the local hospital, Baptist Medical Center, which was on Linden Boulevard. He was quite a character. He was AKA, also known as Dr. Death. and he would stop at the precinct, get a radio from the precinct, and he'd get on the air. He goes, "Dr. Death is on the air." And he would ride around the precinct like he was a cop. And he was always showing up to the hospital. One week or another, his nose would be bent and broken. He would have a broken arm. He'd begin to cast on his leg on crutches. He was a big gambler and owed quite a lot of money, always losing, owed quite a lot of money to the loan sharks and the shysters. So he was quite a character. But that was one of the better excuses I've gotten when I stopped somebody at a car stop for running a light. He didn't care how many tickets he got. He said, "I'm not stopping. You give me all the tickets you want." So, but what happened with the NYPD cop off duty, that just goes to show you what was in the back of everyone's mind riding through that precinct at that time. The next story is quite a story. As everyone knows, my ex-partner back in 1987, bought a brand new red Corvette, 1987 red Corvette convertible, red Corvette, white top convertible. And he would take it to work, and that drew a lot of suspicion on things that we were doing, how he could afford that, things like that. So that brings us to a cop who's a little more blatant than my ex-partner. It's an England cop, and I'm probably going to butcher his last name. It was Osman Iqbal, Iqbal, Iqbal. So what he was doing, he bought a brand new, this is 2015, brand new 2015 red Ferrari, $250,000 red Ferrari. And bad enough he bought the car. That would bring enough suspicion if anyone would see him off duty with it. But he used to drive it to work. And that brought a whole investigation into this cop. He was a sergeant. And what he was doing was ran a bunch of strip clubs and brothels. And he would wait outside the strip club, pick up Johns that left the strip club, bring them to his brothel, and run it on credit cards. So he wasn't just charging them whatever normal fee was on a credit card, like a lot of these places do. They ran up the credit cards to exorbitant prices, thinking, Johns are going to be too embarrassed to dispute the charge. So he was doing that. Plus, he was running drugs and a few other scams he had going on. But what brought him down was the purchase of this $250,000 red Ferrari. So those are the things that were happening in 2015 that was very similar to what we were doing back in 1987. And this guy ended up getting 7 years in prison. And then while he was in prison, he got sentenced for some other minor things. I think it was an assault or something. But that's what we have for this week. So hopefully you enjoyed our episode, and we'll be back next week, and I'll have some more. I'll do some more Q&A next week. I got a couple of questions. I haven't looked them over yet. They're sitting in my email, and there's some good ones in there. So we'll get to that next week. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.